Holy Polaris!
Batman was a lot of fun to film. We had a tight schedule, which I would have liked a little bit more time so we could have really savored every moment and really tried to pull out the best of our characters. But we still had a good time doing it, and I think it was a terrific production.
I was told that our shooting schedule was 6 weeks. However, I think I worked a little over 30 days, and I wanted a little time off, so I did ask them to try to cram my stuff together. The locations were interesting because we got to go to Santa Barbara and use that wonderful pier there. It attracted so many folks, you know, locally, that it was tough to work on the pier, and Bert and I would have to leave by submarine every evening. No, they got us off in a boat at the ocean end of the pier because we couldn't get through the other side.
Technologically, we had a tremendous crew, and everybody played their characters to the hilt. Everyone that on the crew loved doing the film. The actors and actresses, you know, enjoyed it as well. And Adam and I had a great time. I mean, we were basically reprising what we were already doing on the series. I think what was interesting about making the movie Batman was that instead of it being the first thing that we did and then a television series coming afterwards, we already had a successful television series, and the movie was like the icing on the cake. We already had a following.
We did the movie the first summer hiatus after we started the series. Originally, they intended to do the movie first and use the movie, the theatrical release, to sell the series. But we got lucky in that the series was accepted and went on the air. We did, I think, 34 episodes and then did the movie. Why the movie? The movie was done to sell the series overseas. It was released overseas, and indeed it worked. And it kind of prepared the way for a series that nobody understood the mix. Nobody quite got it, what it was, for some time.
Look at this pair of joking riddles.
What does a turkey do when he flies upside down?
He gobbles up.
Of course.
And number 2.
What weighs 6 ounces, sits in a tree, and is very dangerous?
A sparrow with a machine gun.
Yes, of course.
Batman was very bizarre and had no resemblance really to real life. And the comedic aspects of it, the theater of the absurd, you know, these were the things that I kind of concentrated on and enjoyed mostly.
I close my eyes and I dream of those savage Cossacks racing over the steppes on their brutal mission.
How strange. I close my eyes and I dream of something quite astonishingly different.
We had a lot of great writers on Batman and on the movie. Lorenzo Semple wrote the movie.
Lorenzo's pilot for Batman was so excruciatingly funny to me and fresh and different. I'd never seen anything like it on television or even in the movies. And so I said to my agent, okay, if they want me, don't leave the studio. Sign me up now because I want to do this. I really think I've got a handle on it. And sure enough, that was it. And I signed on, and then they said, however, would you test with a young man to see whether the chemistry's right? And I said, of course I would. This is, you know, something you do.
When I tried out for the role of Robin, first of all, I didn't know that I was trying out for the role of Robin. I was selling real estate, going to acting school, studying at UCLA, and I sold a house to a producer who sent me to an agent who said, listen, I can't get work for my actors, so don't expect to work for a year, and if you do, it's only going to be a tiny part. And then I got a call about 2 weeks later. He said, go over to 20th Century Fox, see this certain casting director. And I said, what's it for? He said, I don't know what it is. They just said, you know, they're seeing a whole bunch of young guys. Go over there.
We did a test together, and I knew instantly that Burt was absolutely the right person to do this. Holy guacamole, Batman! That kind of thing. He was naive and he was sensitive. He was a young guy and had very little experience. But he was, his naivete was pronounced.
And then there was a 6-week period after I had done the screen test that I didn't hear anything, but I was getting phone calls after about the 2nd week from people at 20th Century Fox saying, well, what shoe size do you wear, and what's your glove size, and what's the circumference of your forehead, or whatever, all of this stuff. And I was trying to say, well, gee, does that mean I'm getting closer? Do you think maybe I'm going to get this role? What happened was the studio thought that my agents told me I had the role. And my agents thought that the studio told me I had the role. And actually, for 4.5 weeks, I had the role, and I didn't even know about it. The same week that I found out that I had been cast as Robin, out of desperation, living at the beach, surviving by taking Coke bottles back, I tried to get a job, and I was turned down for a gas station job at $1.10 an hour. But then again, I was more happy to do Robin.
What has yellow skin and rights?
A ballpoint banana.
Right. 2, what people are always in a hurry?
Russian people? Russians.
Right again. Now, what would you say they mean?
Banana, Russian. I've got it. Someone Russian is going to slip on a banana peel and break their neck.
Precisely, Robin. The only possible meaning.
The reason Adam and I were selected was not, I mean, I'd like to say it's because we're great actors. But that really wasn't it. What William Dozier, the executive producer, said to me was, Burt, we selected you out of 1,100 other young actors because, in our mind, you personally, what you are, is as close to what we would imagine Robin to be. It wasn't a matter of acting, and we don't want you to, quote, act. We want you to be yourself and to be enthusiastic, and that's it, because you really are what we imagine Robin to be. And Adam, being the gentleman that he is, that wants his tea at 4 in the afternoon, and, you know, Mr. Suave, and he is Batman. I think what was fun about the feature was that instead of just being limited to one villain, we had 4, and we had 4 of the most popular villains.
Our executive producer, Bill Dozier, and producer Charlie Fitzsimons, and another producer, Bill D'Angelo, had remarkable talent for picking the right people. And, you know, you think of the villains that we had. We had Cesar Romero, the great Latin lover. We put white makeup over his mustache because Cesar would not shave the mustache that gave him a career. But Burgess Meredith, who had, you know, a long, wonderful career in movies, on the stage. Frank Gorshin with his manic intensity as Riddler.
Leanne Merriweather as Catwoman. Although Julie Newmar was our main Catwoman in the series, she was filming a movie called McKenna's Gold at the time, so we needed another Catwoman, and Leanne Merriweather was terrific.
Right. We have to do something to get Batman out of the way.
Favorite villain? I would have to say Catwoman, and you guys know what I mean. I had 3 Catwomen. It's 27 lives, isn't it, that I had to go through? You give me curious stirrings in my utility belt, Catwoman. My first day on the set, it was an exterior on the back lot at Fox, that this series might be somewhat different in that as I arrived and sat down in my chair, the Riddler's car exploded in front of me, and rubber shrapnel flew by my head. And there were screams and people running, and I sat there just kind of thinking, do I want to put that cowl on or not?
On the series and on the movie, I had a wonderful stuntman, but my stuntman, Victor Paul, a terrific guy, always seemed to be off having a coffee with Adam while I'm getting hurt with the Batman stuntman, Hubie Kearns. You know, they had a policy, you know, on Batman, and that was if there's ever anything really dangerous, always use Burt. And as a result of that, I was constantly in the emergency hospital. You know, I thought I was an unlucky guy. And during the first episode, I mean, 4 days in a row in the emergency hospital, I didn't think I was going to survive the first week.
I think that we had a marvelous prop department and special effects department. They did get a little overzealous from time to time. And I remember poor Burt, as Robin was blown off tables and singed a bit. We had a contraption called the Bat Cycle. And I used to ride a motorcycle back and forth to work and so on, and I was okay on the Bat Cycle. But poor Burt, not so good, because he was in the sidecar. And you see, Batman would push a little button and give an order, whatever, and that sidecar was then rigged, we thought, to go in a certain direction and end up at a certain point. It very seldom did that. So Burt would be screaming and white-knuckled. I'd push the button and he would careen away from the Bat Cycle, and he never knew. I didn't know where he was going to end up. I mean, one time I think he went over a pier into the water. There was another time he went into, there was a chicken farm, and he went into where the chickens lay there. It was terrible. But Burt was very brave about these things. He was naive.
We had some very interesting things happen on the Batman movie, a little bit scary. It was the last fight scene that we had, and we were fighting all the 4 villains and their henchmen on the Penguin submarine. And this was filmed out at Fox's ranch out in the Malibu area, where they had it's like a big lake. It was really incredible. But it was only about 4 feet deep, and they had various bars and stuff under the water that they used to tie things down, and one of the stuntmen who dove into the water hit his head, and he's lucky he didn't die. But he turned out, it's okay, everything turned out great. What Batman the movie gave us was an opportunity with a little bit bigger budget to have more toys in there. For example, we had the Batcopter. We had the Batboat. We also had never filmed going up the bat pole. We'd always been sliding down the bat pole, so now we had going up the bat pole, which they pulled that footage and they used it a lot in subsequent episodes of the show.
We had that infamous Batman and Robin wall walk.
When you think Batman, with people in weird outfits, like the 4 super crooks hanging around here, it's amazing someone hasn't already reported this place to the police.
Somebody told me at one point that we had 250 guest stars, and among them, people who wanted to do the show, Frank Sinatra, Bobby Kennedy, people like that, and people would pop out of a window, as you probably remember, and it could be anybody from Jerry Lewis to Dick Clark, you know. We had, we had Tallulah Bankhead, Carolyn Jones, and Baxter. There were those who did Batman as, I think, the first jobs. Jim Brolin, Rob Reiner, Terry Garr, Vincent Price as Egghead was wonderful. And one day, as part of toward the end of the show, he was supposed to throw eggs. Well, they brought in dozens of old eggs, and he threw a few eggs, and I didn't like it. Bert didn't. Nobody liked it. We started to throw eggs back, and it became this huge egg fight with this terrible, smelly mess of eggs on the stage. It broke the tension, but it was the biggest, most horrible omelet you've ever been in.
Both Adam and I tried to do our laughing before the take, but that didn't always happen. The problem is, when you put Adam and I together, there is some chemical reaction. I'm not sure what it is. It's been 35 years, I still don't know what it is. But something happens when you put the two of us together, and everybody starts laughing. I mean, we start laughing. Everybody laughs.
One of my favorite scenes remains that bomb scene in the movie. Our director, Les Martinson Jr., I'd worked with before. Les was marvelous. because he elaborated, he staged, he set up that scene so that it was more than what we were presented with on paper or whatever. And I had a chance to improvise a bit, but Les gave us the ducks and the nuns and the lovers in the boat, so that that particular sequence became an arc of frustration. And to have it end with that line.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
These are moments that are played by people on the street when I see them all the time. I hear that wherever I go. I wonder what they mean. Some days you can't get rid of a bomb. I hope it doesn't reflect on my entire career.
Kids love Batman. It's hero worship. It's clean. It's wonderful entertainment, and it's something the family can enjoy together. And I think what's going to be interesting about this DVD is I think there's going to be a lot of DVD equipment that is worn out with Batman being played over and over and over, because these kids, they love this hero worship. Every kid in the world wants to be a superhero.
I had very little in common with Bruce Wayne. The only thing I think I had in common with Batman, really, was a moral fiber. I was taught early on to be honest and not take myself too damn seriously.
Our job is finished.
Holy DVD, Batman!